So you're starting 7.1 notes today. So page 29, 7.1%. Okay. And then let's turn over to page 29. Okay, write 29 in the corner and put 7.1%. Okay. All right, so percents are a part of everyday life. You see percentage on your battery on your cell phone or your watch or even in your car. Also, you see percents at stores whenever there's discounts, or even taxes. How they calculate your taxes is based on a percentage, and each town, state has a different percentage that you have to pay for tax. Okay. All right, so what a percent is. You discussed this yesterday in the video. A percent is the value of a part to whole ratio. Where the whole is 100. Okay, and 4%, we use this symbol here. Okay, and that represents percent. So instead of writing the word percent, we put percent. All right, to put that in numbers, in number terms, %60 means 60 out of 100. Okay, so 60 out of 100. All right, and in algebra terms, N%, N just represents an unknown number. You would change that to N over 100. Okay, all right, so let's do some examples. Example 1, or our first set of examples. Part A. Write 35% as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so write 35% as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so this tells us to just take the number and put it over 100. So we would do 35 over 100. Okay, and then you need to simplify. Okay, so let's go all the way back to the beginning of the year when we were reducing fractions. And there's a couple ways you can do that. Okay, so one of the ways is to use the ladder method. 35 and 100, I can divide those both by 5. Okay, what's 35 divided by 5? Yeah, that's 7. And 100 divided by 5 is 20. And these, there's not a number I can divide these both by. So in simplified terms, that would be 7 over 20. Okay, so what that means is 35% is equal to 7 over 20. All right, let's do another example. Write 100% as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, all right, so it says to do, for n%, put n over 100. So 100% we would do 100 over 100. Okay, and then I know anything divided by itself is 1. Okay, so that would be 1 over 1 or just 1. Okay, so what that means is 100% is equal to 1. All right, and another example, C. Okay. It says write 174% as a mixed number in simplest form. Okay. All right, so what we do is we take 174 and we put it over 100. Okay, and then we simplify. Okay, so we do 174 and 100. I notice I can divide these both by 2. Okay, 174 divided by 2 would be 87. And 100 divided by 2 would be 50. Okay, 87 and 50, they do not have any factors in common besides 1, so I just leave that as 87 over 50. Okay, and then I'm going to show you how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number using your calculator. Okay, so take your calculator and use the fraction button, the n over d, numerator over denominator, and type in 87 over 50, and then use the arrow to exit out of it. And then you're going to hit second, and you're going to hit this button here. See where it has a fraction going to a mixed number? Okay, that means change it to a mixed number. And if it was a mixed number, you could change it back to a fraction, an improper fraction, and then hit enter. And it changes it to a mixed number for us. So it's 1 and 37 over 50ths. So this equals 1 whole and 37 50ths. Okay, so 174% is equal to 1 and 37 over 50. Okay, and that's how you change a percent to a fraction. All right, moving on. Okay, let's say they told us to writing fractions as percents. Okay, so what if they gave us the fraction and told us to write it as a percent? Okay, so here's how you would do that. So let's put it into words. You want to write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, so if they ever, and then you write the numerator with the percent symbol. Okay. Example. So example 2. Part A. says write 1/4 as a percent. Okay. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to take 1/4 and you're going to write an equivalent fraction that has 100 as the denominator. Okay, so here's how you would do that. Make sure you leave you some space there. So you would take and figure out what you need to multiply 4 by to get to 100. So the way to figure that out is you take your calculator and do 100 divided by 4 and gives you 25. So that means you would need to do 4 times 25 to get to 100. Okay, so to find your numerator, whatever you did to the denominator, you just do to the numerator as well. So you multiply it by 25. So you do 1 times 25, which is 25. So 1/4 is equivalent to 25 over 100. So now, percentage-wise, it says just write the numerator, 25, as the percent symbol. So that means that 1/4 is equal to 25%. Okay, let's try another example, part B. Write 3/50 as a percent. Okay, all right, so start off with your 3/50. And we need to rewrite it so that way it has a denominator of 100. Okay, so remember again, the way to figure out what to multiply this by, you do 100 divided by 50, and that gives us 2. Okay, so I would need to multiply this by 2. So then I multiply the top by 2 as well. Well, 3 times 2 is 6, so that would be 6 over 100. Okay, so that means that 3/50 is equal to 6%. And another example. Write 9/1000 as a percent. Okay. All right, so here's what we got to do. You put 9/1000 and equals something over 100. Now notice this number is bigger than 100. So this time you would actually have to divide by something to get it to 1,000. So you're like, what do I need to divide 1,000 by to get to 100? So there's a couple ways you can do this. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's do it the same way we've been doing. There's a couple different ways you can do this, and I want to be the most consistent so I don't confuse very many people. So we've just been doing 100 divided by 50 and multiplying. So let's do 100 divided by 1,000. And I get 0.1. So that means I need to multiply this by 0.1. Okay? So you would also multiply the top by 0.1. Okay, so let's do 9 times 0.1. And that gives me 0.9. Okay, so that'd be 0.9. So that means that 9/1000 is equal to 0.9%. All right, so that's how you write a fraction as a percent. All right, now, just like everyone's question, when are we actually going to use this in the real world? Okay, so let me give you an example, a real life example of when you use percentages. Okay. it says, a drought affects 9 out of 12 Midwestern states. What percent of the Midwestern states are affected by the drought? Okay, so in order to do that, in order to figure out the percentage, you would write this as a fraction. It says 9 out of 12. So you would do 9 out of 12. Okay, so first you would write it as a fraction. And then there's a couple different ways you can go about this. You can simplify first and then see what you need to do, or you can just do the same thing we've been doing. Okay, so to figure that out, we would just need to make this fraction a percent. So we make it the denominator 100. Okay, so we get our calculator, just like we've been doing, and we do 100 divided by 12. And that gives us 8.33333. That's a non-terminating decimal. That's repeating. So let's change this to a fraction. So let's do second, and that would be a mixed number. So let's do this one. So that's 8 1/3. So I would need, and I hit second and this button. So that's 8 1/3. So I would need to multiply this by 8 1/3. So I also multiply 9 by 8 1/3. Okay, so let's just use our calculator. Do 9 times 8, and then to do the mixed number, hit second and this fraction button. You're actually doing the mixed number. So there's 8 1/3, and then hit enter, and that's 75. So that would be 75%. So 75% of the Midwestern states are affected by the drought. That's a high percentage. Okay, so that's an example of using percentages in a real life scenario. Okay, all right. If you have any questions, let me know. You have an assignment on Big Ideas Math. It is 7.1 self-check. All right, thank you, and y'all have a good day.